Okay. I think we're on.
Awesome.
Let's see if I can fix the chat. Hey guys, can you hear us? Okay, we got it.
Awesome. Now, not to offend anyone, but I probably won't be reading the questions. I can't see them on my phone for one thing.
Right. Right.
But to read my notes and to look at everything, I'm not used to live, so if I don't see someone, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Yeah, I have to look at my phone to see the comments because I can't see them on the Chromebook. Well, hi guys, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Um, Tonight, Dr. Death is going to take us inside the mind of a killer. Um, so if you just want to start, you can go ahead and lead the way. Tell us a little bit about Stephen.
Okay. And like I said, I can't see the comments on my phone for whatever reason, so I'll just tell a little bit, and then if you'll just help me with questions that people have, just pick them out. I'll try to my best to answer them
Okay.
if that works, because I just can't see the questions.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I can help you out with that.
Okay. All right. Should just go ahead and start now.
Yeah. Just go ahead and start. I think they can hear us. Can you guys hear us fine? I don't see anyone responding in the chat. I honestly don't. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it or not.
Yeah, I can't see anything. I'm gonna try to get my computer up and see if I can look at it that way.
Um. Yeah. Okay. Truth Matters says yes. Everybody's saying yes. Okay. Let's
Okay.
get started then.
Okay. Sorry. All right. So we're gonna just start with a little bit about Stephen McDaniel, who he was, what he was about, and what I think kind of happened that night when he was with Lauren.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that most of you have already seen the interrogations and you have an idea of what happened. So I'm not going to go completely into the case, but I will tell you a few things that you probably didn't know. The first one was that his name is Stephen Mark McDaniel. He was 25 years old at the time that he killed Lauren. Stephen resided in Tucker, Georgia, which is a little suburb right outside of Atlanta. And if anyone's ever been to Georgia or knows anything about Georgia, most of the little suburbs outside of Atlanta, they're very rural, and everybody knows everybody kind of thing. So I'm sure lots of people in Tucker were familiar with Stephen. In his high school, he actually achieved a lot of goals. He made good grades. He was well liked in school. And in fact, he was voted most likely to be famous in high school. I guess we could say he did, become famous, but just not in a very good way.
Right.
When
Right.
Stephen left high school, he went to law school and he graduated law school. He didn't make really good grades in law school. He kind of just skated by. But the professor said that he was very smart, a very bright guy, and that if he had just applied himself, Stephen would have made much better grades, much better average than C's. But he did actually pass and graduate from law school, and he was preparing to study for the bar exam. Him and Lauren had actually known each other, or at least been neighbors with each other for several years, starting from 2008. I had seen a couple of questions about where exactly the location of the apartments were. And I can tell you that both Lauren and Stephen lived on the top floor side by side with each other. Now, when you hear about the camera and the 6 foot tall stick that he was using, what Stephen would actually do is he would go down the stairs and go around the building to where Lauren's bedroom was. And he would take that stick and raise it up and he would look. He thought his view was obstructed. He didn't think people could actually see him doing that. But a neighbor did, in fact, see him doing it. And she actually told Lauren about it. Hey, I seen a guy trying to look in your window. So she was pretty creeped out about that and did actually mention, that she thought someone was stalking her. You want me to keep going, or you got any questions? Or
keep going. Keep going.
Okay. So the name of the place where they lived was Barrister Hall, and it was right across the street from Mercer University, or Walter Ford George School of Law. Macon is a pretty popular place. It's not as big as Atlanta, but it's fairly large. So it was a pretty good and prestigious school. Stephen was a recluse. He was always playing video games. His neighbors talked about how they would hear him running back and forth in the apartment, screaming at Fortnite or whatever it was that he was doing, and didn't have any friends. If you'll recall in the interrogation, when James McDonald, who is the guy in the pink, talking to him about his friends, and he mentions two people. Well, they actually are not his friends. They don't exist. The only people that actually come see Stephen are his family, whom he loves very much. And his family were actually very good people. They didn't abuse him. There's no signs of any kind of sexual or mental abuse. In fact, his mother to this day swears her son is innocent and visits him and is doing everything possible to get him out of jail. She thinks he has been wrongly imprisoned. Going through the case, I can show you that he definitely isn't innocent. He definitely did kill Lauren. Besides his confession, there is evidence to prove that. So go ahead.
So what do you want to talk about the evidence they had against him, or you want to wait till later?
Yeah, I'd first like to talk about, I don't know if you guys are familiar with organized and disorganized killers, but it's kind of important to know the mindset of Stephen. How in the hell does someone who goes to law school and does all of that? We know about Ted Bundy, of course, but, how does someone do that? I wouldn't say Stephen was as charming as Ted Bundy, but he was a smart kid. And he was doing stuff. He was working at the district attorney's office as an intern, and he was preparing to be a prosecutor. Lauren, on the other hand, was preparing to be a defending attorney. She wanted to defend people. So Stephen was a smart guy. So what in the world happened to Stephen to where, he goes so far as to kill his neighbor? An organized and a disorganized killer, whenever you have an organized killer and you think of the antisocial, often psychopathic, they know right from wrong, okay? They're not insane at all. Most of an organized killer will show very little remorse for the crimes that they commit. And we do know that Stephen, he emphatically denied, I don't know. He didn't know anything. And it took several years for him to actually confess to killing Lauren. Organized killers also tend to be average to above average in intelligence. Well, we know this is the case for Stephen. He went to law school. A lot of us probably couldn't do that. He was skilled. He was orderly. If you read the discovery pages, it will tell you that his apartment was very clean, very organized, even like we discussed, EC, to the point of some OCD going on there in his home. So we know an organized killer, they're average to above average intelligence. They're very skilled, they're very orderly, they're very cunning, they think about things before they do them, and they're controlled. They have some degree of social grace, but they mostly they're very charming. I didn't see that in Stephen. He kind of creeped me out, to be honest with you. But we also know with organized killers, there's three basic crime scenes. Whenever they kill someone, they usually do it in three different ways. The first is where the victim was approached by the killer. Okay, so he walked in and he found Lauren laying in bed asleep at 4:30 in the morning. Okay, I saw some Discovery the other day where it was saying it was in the afternoon. It wasn't. It was at 4:30 in the morning. She was asleep. He did walk in. The floor creaked. Okay, so the victim is approached by the killer is the first step. The second step is, where did the killer kill the victim? Well, he killed her in the house. Okay, and where did he dispose of the victim? Well, we know that he cut her when he strangled her, and he decided to drag her to the bathroom. He cut off her head, and then he cut off her arms, he cut off her legs. Okay, he took her head, her arms, and her legs, and he dumped them in the dumpster at the law university. Her torso, which still had her pink shorts on it, so there is absolutely zero evidence of sexual abuse towards Lauren. He simply freaked out. He was a voyeur. He was watching her. She caught him. He freaked out. He killed her. He cut her up, and he tried to dispose of her. Stephen had a blog, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but he would sign his name SOL. And SOL stands for Son of Liberty. And he would write really crazy things about guns and killing people and everything else. And if you'll give me 1 second, Cece, I'm going to look and see if I can find that real quick.
Okay, yeah, find that. Yeah, I heard about that. Creepy.
Okay, so here's just one thing that he would say. Okay, and this goes along with him just thinking about things, thinking about it over and over. He doesn't have any friends, and he's thinking about how pretty Lauren is. Okay, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about Lauren today, because we're going to do that tomorrow. Today, we're just going to talk about Stephen and the crime scene and the things that I noticed there, you know. Okay. But, okay, so Stephen wrote the blog, and y'all forgive me. I've never really talked in front of a group before, so if I ramble, just smack me. Okay, so he says, I'd go outside, grab my kit out of the car, pop in a fresh mag, and proceed to slaughter the entire bigoted group, never once doing so much as uttering a sound. When they're all dead, and they all do need to die, I'd sit down on the ground with my gun several paces away from me and just rock back and forward on the ground, eyes wide and blank. Does that ring a bell? What did he do when the reporter talked to him and said, "Hey, do you know about that body they just found?"
Yeah.
He sat down and he started rocking and freaking out, right?
Yep, he did.
He goes on to write, afterwards, I'd remain in the state for at least a day. No talking, no communication, blank, unfocused stares. I don't fall asleep either. Eventually, when some new stimulus is introduced, I don't know, a family member I haven't seen or a picture of my brother or something like that, I'd shake my head from side to side, blink rapidly, and look around in a panicked manner, asking, where am I? What's going on? And I don't know. I didn't do it. What are you talking about? If my family is okay while I'm there, and when they'd ask, I'd say I had no memory of anything that happened after I arrived at the scene. And this is him explaining what he would tell the cops if he killed someone. This is how to get away with the perfect murder, according to Stephen McDaniel.
Oh, my goodness.
Near the end of the post, he writes, they probably initiate charges, at which point the family will need to get a lawyer to argue that I had no knowledge of my actions and was not acting on my own volition when I acted. Keep the story consistent, and whenever I'm not prepared to answer, just say I don't know. I look down and pat a sad look on my face. I remember there's cameras in the interrogation room, so no matter what, I don't move. I might end up institutionalized for a while so they can try to figure out what caused the blackout. And they may take my guns from me as well as the ability to purchase more. But if I stuck to my story, it's doubtful I'll end up in prison. At the end of the post, he writes, P.S. Of course, this is all hypothetical. So I thought that was very interesting. He had it all planned out in his head.
It seems like to me that, yeah, he had it planned out in his head that he knew he was going to murder someone.
I think eventually, I think what he probably had been doing was fantasizing over Lauren. He was stalking her. He was watching her. There's no telling how many times he actually was in her apartment. We know he had a master key to her apartment and to everyone's apartment. He had a separate special key for Lauren, and then he had another master key for the rest of the building. So there's no telling how many times he was actually in the poor girl's apartment watching her and her having no idea he was there. We know that he stole her pictures from Facebook. He had thousands of pictures of Lauren. And if you'll hold on, he looked up some information on Lauren right before he killed her. Let's see here. I'm sorry. Give me just a second. If you want to talk for a minute, Cece, just give me 1 second and I'll...
Okay, let me answer Karen Parton's question. No, he did not sexually assault her.
Absolutely not. There is no proof of that whatsoever.
No. Her shorts were still on her.
They were still on the torso, yeah.
Yeah, torso. Amanda, I think this happened in 2011.
Yes, that's correct. In June. June the 30th, 2011 at 4:30 in the morning. Okay, so about 2 months before Stephen McDaniel killed Lauren, he Google searched the words nude Lauren Giddings. He constantly viewed her Twitter page 3,286 times in 6 months, to be exact.
They're wanting to know what the motive was.
Well, I think, now this is just a personal opinion, okay? So, he sort of classifies as a lust killer than he sort of doesn't. What I think happened was he was stalking Lauren. He was looking at her. He did think about all the nasty little things he wanted to do with Lauren. If Stephen had not been caught, in the apartment like he was, would he have killed Lauren? It's questionable. I think he had been watching her. He had been stalking her. I don't know if his plan all along was to kill her. He didn't rape her, which is very odd. He hacked her up and he put her in the trash bags. I don't know, honestly. He's a strange cat. He did it. He didn't rape, he didn't sexually assault her, so it kind of throws out the lust killer thing. But in a way, he did have those characteristics, all except for, raping her. And if you hold on, I'll give you the exact definition of a lust killer, because that's to me his motive. Well, before I do that, I'm sorry, guys. I've never done this, so I got my notes everywhere here. But anyway, okay, so the organized killer we know, let's just do that real quick. He was organized, he was smart, and then you've got your disorganized killers. And disorganized killers, they lack the confidence and the skills necessary to plan a crime. So that's the ones where, you're driving down the side of the road and there's a body dump. Boom, a body. They don't care if you find it. They're sloppy with it. They're very disorganized. They don't venture far from their homes when they commit the murder. So that's how they profile them, is that, I'll give you a great example of a disorganized killer. It would be Jack the Ripper. Okay. Jack the Ripper probably lived within a radius, and I'm not going to get into Jack the Ripper, but he probably lived within a radius of where his victims were. Okay. And that's the same thing with a disorganized killer. They kill people that are around in their area. They don't venture out. Usually a disorganized killer is very violent and brutal and sadistic. They usually overkill. So they might kill their victim and then do like Stephen did, hack them up. I think Stephen, did that to get rid of the body, but A disorganized killer would do it just out of rage, just overkill. The person's already dead and he stabs them 20 more times. It's just crazy. They have what's called an IVT, which is an ideal victim. They have that person planned in their head, and they know what type of person they're looking for to kill. Once the disorganized offender has found a victim who is ideal, they'll engage in stalking and other predatory behaviors. Stephen did that as well, before acting out their fantasy on the victim. We know that Stephen asked Lauren out several times, and she respectfully declined him. She was, from my understanding, not rude to him or bitchy to him or anything like that. It says in June of 2011, a month and 12 days after they graduated from law school, he slipped inside her bedroom while she slept, and that's how that happened. Okay, he cut her all up with a hacksaw, and did all of that. So I think that Stephen was in between being a disorganized killer and an organized killer. They can be mixed. There are definitely multiple offenders who are actually organized and disorganized. I think he would have been completely organized if she had not surprised him and jumped up. Does that make sense? I think the part of cutting her up and hiding her body the way that he did was not part of the plan.
Right.
I think that he was stalking her. Like I said, eventually he probably would have killed her. I mean, we know he's a nutcase, but I don't think that was Stephen's intentions that night. I don't think he planned to kill her. I think he planned maybe to go in there, maybe and sexually assault her. But he was definitely in there to do probably what he had done 1,000 times before, 100 times before, and that was stalk her and watch her sleep and be a weird sicko.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. And she just woke up.
And she woke up and she caught him and he freaked out and he strangled her. Now, we know, I don't know if you guys know, but with strangulation, it can be very easy. We know that Stephen choked her or strangled her for 15 minutes. Okay. So that's how we know he was completely freaked out. He didn't know what he was doing. And he was just pressing down on her neck and freaking out and probably shaking and drooling and everything else and trying to kill her. Okay.
Yeah.
We know that it doesn't take 15 minutes to choke someone. I can't imagine him holding on to her neck that long, but that's what he says. That he choked her for 15 minutes. So that indicates to me that he was frazzled. He was, he was just trying to kill her ass and get out of there.
Right.
In my opinion.
Gosh, what a creepy case. Oh my gosh.
Okay. And there's what I would have thought that Stephen would have done. I'm surprised that he got so personal with Lauren and he strangled her, did manual strangulation. He struck me as the type of fella that would have done ligature strangulation, like the BTK. I didn't think that he would get that up and close with her, but maybe because they were fighting and Lauren was over 6 foot tall. So she was a tall girl, much taller than Stephen actually. And her, we know her legs got trapped up under the bed. So maybe in the tussle, that's just how he had to do it. But I think if Stephen would have had his choice, it wouldn't have been manual strangulation. I think all of that was a forced kill. He had to do what he had to do and get out of there. If that makes sense.
Right. So if her legs probably hadn't have been under the bed, she maybe could have handled him. Maybe. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you think about it though, guys. You think about, you're laying in bed at 4:30 in the morning and you're asleep, and some creep with underwear on his head, with holes cut out, is staring at you. I mean, That would be frightening. That would be horrible. Strangulation, despite what some people say, I can tell you with my profession, is a terrible way to go. It's very scary and it's very horrible. It is one of the least ways that I want to check out. I can tell you that. I mean, I don't know. You got any questions or anything? I don't know what to say.
Yeah, let me read you
Okay.
some. Hold on, let me scroll up here. Do you think that Lauren was his first victim?
Yes.
She was. Guys, do you guys have any
Okay, wait a
questions?
minute. Well, wait a minute. Let me clarify that.
Okay.
First murder victim. I think that he probably stalked and gawked over girls probably his whole life. He had a conversation with McDonald, who is the lead investigator, and he told McDonald that he was a virgin and that it was because of his religion. They were very Christian, and that he was not going to have sex until he was married. So I think that his family, probably in his teenage years, really kind of taught him that you can't have sex until you're married, and made it a little weird for him. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm sure that he stalked other girls. I don't think he killed anyone before Lauren.
Okay, here's another question. Didn't he have her underwear on?
Yes. On his head.
On his hand. Okay. And someone else says, what do you mean her feet were under the bed?
Okay, so when she looked up and she saw an intruder, she yelled, "Get the F out of here." And I'm sure she sat up. Well, when she sat up, he bum rushed her, coming towards her, and she fell to the ground, okay? And they started tussling. And when they started tussling on the ground, somehow she managed to get her feet up under the bed on the ground. Mm-hmm. And then he was able to get on top of her and start choking her, and her feet were under the bed, so she couldn't just jump up. She would have had to slide out and get out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, and let's see. The next question is, how long was he stalking her?
Well, I would imagine that right away. I mean, I would imagine that as soon as he saw this 6-foot blonde, he started taking notice of her immediately. Hold on, and I'll tell you when exactly she moved in on. Okay, so his first search for her. So it looks like he probably stalked her within about 2 months of her actually moving in. He started to stalk her because he looked up molest sleeping girl.
Oh, wow.
3 months after she moved in. So he did a Google search and he, quote, molest sleeping girl.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. And so he had been in her apartment before this night, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then Sandy wants to know, so the clear motive is that he got caught, so he decided to kill her.
Yes, that's what I believe. Others may believe, now, got to go by his testimony and the evidence that is provided. They only have the torso. The head and the limbs were never found, of course. But it just seems to me that Stephen was more of a watcher. Now, would it have developed into more? If he would have gotten away with killing Lauren, I think that Stephen could have potentially been a serial killer.
Right.
But because he, obviously he didn't get away with it, but I don't think his intentions that night were to kill her, maybe to rape her or assault her, but I don't think he thought he would get caught.
Right.
Simply because I think that he had done it. I'm almost positive he had done that before and didn't get caught.
Right.
Because he says the floor creaked when he stepped on it. It made a sound. She heard the sound and sat up.
Yeah.
So I think it was just by chance that she heard him.
Right. Right. That would be scary to wake up to the floor creaking and some strange man in there.
And you see that beast in there with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a good question from Warrior Grandma. Can your guest explain his weird demeanor during the interrogation?
Well, yeah, that's why I read to you his little blog. I think that was a show.
Yeah.
That was a little game he was playing with the cops. He thought, okay, because now was he a little shaken when they said something about a body? Absolutely. Wouldn't you be? You'd be like, oh shit, they found her. Oh my God, I gotta sit down. My nerves are wrecked, like anybody would be nervous knowing that the cops just found the body you hid. But the way his personality switched, that's why I read you the blog. He described exactly what he did in there years before he did it.
Yes, yeah. He had that planned out,
So that was something that he planned out. What he was hoping, as you know from the thing I read you, was that if he acted weird enough, they would put him in a mental hospital for a little while and then let him out.
Yeah. And that didn't work, did it?
No.
Okay, let's see. It's next question. Sweet Melissa. So they never found the rest of her body. No, Melissa, they didn't find her limbs and head.
They only found her torso.
Only found her torso. Warrior Grandma, he didn't bring a weapon. He didn't bring a weapon, did he?
Not originally, no. He did have he had a hacksaw in his apartment and the guns and all of that, but now you have to go with his testimony because there was no weapons in the house when the forensic people came in. There was no evidence of a struggle. There was no evidence of weapons. There was only Lauren missing. So I don't think we'll ever truly know if he came in there with a weapon. But if he had came in there with a weapon, he would have used it beforehand, I believe. And, with the blood spatter evidence, when they used the luminol, it all points to him doing it in the bathtub, like he said. So
right.
I don't personally think that he brought a weapon.
Right. Here is a really good question. Did he have any history of mental illness?
No, absolutely no mental illness at all. He was quiet. He was a little socially awkward, but he has no reports of any suicide attempts, no violence, no reports of violence, no anything, no Section 8s, nothing.
Right. Okay. And another person wants to know, Maggie, did he ever admit where the rest of her body was?
Yes, he did tell them that like I said, he told them, I put her head and her limbs in one bag, wrapped them up with a bunch of black trash bags, and took them to the law school dumpster. And then her torso he put in the apartment dumpster. And when Sergeant McDonald pulled in to find out what's going on with Lauren, they had just filed the missing person case. He parked in front of the dumpster at the apartments, and the trash collector could not get to that dumpster, so they just passed it by. And that is the only reason they found her torso. That's why Stephen was so shocked when the reporter says, well, we found a body, because he thought they had took her already. He didn't realize that they had not taken her.
Okay, my mic was muted for some reason. I was trying to keep the dogs from messing up our live stream. Warrior Grandma, I did ask her the question about his demeanor in the interrogation room, and she said that he had wrote a blog about it. Can you explain that again to her, please?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. The blog that I read at the very beginning, Stephen actually wrote that a couple of years before the death of Lauren. And, he explicitly says how he would act, hypothetically, of course, how he would act if he committed a murder, and he describes his behavior that day, and his rationale is that if he acts so bizarre and strangely, that they'll just put him into a mental hospital, and then he'll be there for a few years, and then he'll get out, no big deal. He even talks about in his blog about the cameras being in the interrogation room. And even though there's nobody in the room with him, he knows they're watching the cameras. So he knows to act like that even when they're not in the room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That explains that. Well, let me see. I was trying to ask everybody's question as they was in order, and let's see. Let me get back to my place, so I don't want to miss anybody. Okay, Warrior Grandma also wants to know: did his parents attend the trial?
Yes, and his mother, like I said, his father, his grandfather has since passed away. His grandfather did believe he was guilty. Very sadly, it said it broke his heart that, Stephen was a good kid. His mother still does, she attended, but she does not believe that Stephen did this. She thinks he was set up. But yes, they did attend.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let me find. Oh, Olivia wants to know if the trial's on YouTube. I'm not sure if it is. I tried to find it. I just found little clips of it. You know.
Yeah, I don't think the whole trial is either. It could be, but I don't think so either.
Here's a good question by Carla Ray. What were his parents like?
They are, excuse me, still alive. They are Southern Baptists. Uh, Probably, I would say maybe a little over religious. Um, I'm religious myself, so I'm not putting any religion down or anything. But I think that, like I said, with the little not having sex before marriage thing, that was a lot of pressure on Stephen. So I think they were a little strict religious wise. But it's very clear to see that his mother was a very good woman and that she loved him very much. There's not a lot of information about his father, but from what I can see, he was a hardworking guy, and they worked very hard to get Stephen into college. They were very proud of him. They bragged on him all the time.
Mm.
And it looks like Stephen lived a normal, happy childhood.
Okay. Okay. Someone else wants to know. It says in many other cases they have gone to the dump and found bodies. Did they do that in this case, like at the landfill? I guess
No, they did not.
they did not.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Let's see. Did he say why he dismembered her?
No, he didn't explain why. He didn't, in the discovery, he didn't explain exactly why he hacked her up with a hacksaw. I mean, but we can, reduce the reasons why when he had that blog, he was always talking about how to get away with the perfect murder, and he knew he had to dismember the body. So I think that he just did what what he had thought about over the years. Like, if I get caught doing this, I'm going to have to kill him, and this is what I'll do. So I think he just did it because he thought that was the way to get rid of her body and not get caught.
Okay. Okay. Um, do you guys have any more questions you would like to ask her about Stephen? We'll give them a second to type in. Um, is this like genetic, or is it like a mental thing that would cause someone to like fantasize about wanting to murder someone? You know what I'm asking?
I mean, yes, we know that with all the studies they've done on brains of serial killers and things like that, that we do know, especially in the frontal lobe, there are abnormalities where things are missing. There is evidence, like I said, in your frontal lobe, where your emotional state is. A lot of times the brain is very different than someone like you or I who feel empathy and love and all of those emotions that come with being a human being. Unfortunately, yes, there are times when their brain is fine and they're just a bad seed. I don't want to say evil, but I mean they're kind of evil.
Yeah.
But yes, there are times when they have discovered recently that the frontal lobe and the cortex is damaged, and it's not the same as a person who, like us, who have a normal brain.
Right. Okay. Did he have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, he did. And I think I think his mom and dad, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on it, okay? But I know that there were some little kids at the house, and I think they were maybe like some cousins or something like that his mom and dad were taking care of, that he was very, very fond of. They called him Uncle Stephen, and even in the interrogation, McDaniel talks to him about them, and you can tell that that's when Stephen actually speaks and says, that he loves them and things like that. So I don't know that he had any blood brothers or sisters. I don't think so. but there were some children in the home that everyone said Stephen loved very much.
Okay. I wonder why he placed her body parts in different places.
Well, he's probably thinking that they're going to. Okay, I would just. No, I can't say for sure.
Right.
But if I were doing it, and I would be thinking, okay, maybe that they'll take them to separate places and make it harder to find her. That would be logical for me. What I would think, like, okay, if I put an arm here, put an arm there, put a leg there, or whatever, and separate this body, it's going to be much harder to discover and figure out who she is for one, and the rest of her for two. Does that make sense? I think
Yes.
that was his plan, was to just, make it to where it would be very hard to identify her and very hard to find all of her. And that's what he did. I mean, it's just a miracle that they even found her torso, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Another question is, did he have to allocate in court?
I'm sorry, it's breaking up. 1 second.
Okay. Better.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to fix this real quick.
Okay, you're fine. You're fine. We're patient. They're pretty patient people in the chat here. They're used to dealing with me.
Okay, now go ahead. I'm sorry, what was that?
Okay, I don't even know what this means, but it said, did he have to allocate in court? I think I said that right.
Yeah.
Allocate.
Yes, he
Allocate.
did. It's a questionnaire form. Um, the defense will file it. I don't know exactly all of the details of it, but yes, he did.
And you said you didn't think that he had abused pets or cut any up before, right?
There is no evidence of that.
Okay. Is Sweet Melissa wants to know why didn't they look more for the rest of her body?
Okay, when they arrested Stephen in the beginning, they arrested him for burglary, and that's something you have to remember. They knew he had something to do with it, but they didn't have enough evidence. There was nothing on her to completely prove that Stephen was the one that done this. And so they arrested him on burglary charges, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look here. And once he was in jail, they started interrogating him. They Mirandized him. He signed a consent to search form for his house. And that's where they found the underwear and the condoms, and that gave them more to talk about. So the reason why they didn't search more for Lauren was because of the time that had went by from the time that she was missing to the time he actually confessed to killing her. They weren't going to find her. It had been too much time.
Okay. Jersey Girly. Yes, she thinks that Lauren was his only victim.
Yes. Now, like I said, it's very possible that Stephen was stalking other pretty girls. I doubt highly that Lauren was the first girl that he fantasized over, because he really took it to an extreme. He was going into her house when she's in the house. So he had the stick and he was watching her with the stick. So it leads for me to believe that he had actually done that before, but I don't believe he had killed anyone prior to her.
Okay. Okay. Wasn't he acting like his own lawyer in court?
Yes, he tried to do that. And he also tried to file a motion because that he worked at the district attorney's office down there in Macon as an intern, to get it moved, because he said, it was a conflict of interest that they knew him. But yeah, he tried, but he wasn't doing a good job. And to be honest with you, he was headed for the death penalty. But the reason why he didn't get the death penalty, A, he confessed to that, and B, the parents of Lauren Giddings did not want the death penalty for him. They're devout Catholics and do not believe in the death penalty.
Oh, okay. Okay. Carla Ray said Stephen had child pornography on his computer, correct?
That is correct. Like I was talking with you earlier, CC, to my indication now, and I wasn't the investigator on this case, but from the information that I know, it was more like teenage porn. I would say, 12 to 16, something like that. I don't recall ever hearing about it being little, like 3, 4, or 5-year-olds. I think they were preteens or teens.
Right. I don't think I missed anyone's question. If I did, I'm sorry. I think I got them out, girl.
Okay.
I think that's it. This has been very, very interesting tonight.
Yes, guys, and I'm sorry. I will get better at this. I've just, I've never done this before. So, everyone that has a YouTube channel, you have to get out the shakes and all of that and learn to talk in front of people. So the more that I do it, the more confident I will become and the better it'll be.
Well, I actually think you done an awesome job. Like you really did a great job. They loved you. They were talking good about you in the chat,
Oh, good. Okay, I'm glad. And I just want to make this fun for everyone. Like, I want us to all chime in. And if you have an opinion or you think something happened or you think the information I have is wrong, heck, tell me, because I like crime just like you guys do. And, I'm not all-knowing person. So I want us to all talk about it. So
yeah, that's the way I like for them to do me too. I'll tell them all the time in the chat. If I get it wrong, just tell me, and they do, and they're very, very patient people. Most of the people that watch this live stream are really good people, and they're really nice in the chat.
Okay, well, I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk to them, and I hope that I did okay. Like I said, I've never done it before, but
yeah. Why don't you tell them a little bit about that website you was telling me about?
Oh, you're right. Okay, so I'm actually writing a book, and during my journey of writing a book, it is obviously on crime, and I'm doing it on different subjects, but the first volume of the book is on the death penalty. And what I had started doing, trying to find all the information about all these people and the victims, I went to, and it's findagrave.com. And on findagrave.com, you can type in a person's name if you're reading about crime or whatever, and it was a victim or even the perpetrator. And if they've passed away, you can leave a little comment on their page. And that's just something, a little note. I do it all the time. I just leave a little flower for murder victims because, I don't know, it makes you feel better, to just leave something nice. And considering the Watts case just happened, you can actually go to that website, and Shanann's name is under Rusick, but Bella and Celeste are under Watts, and you can leave them a flower and a little comment. And you can do that with anybody that's died, actually. You can find your own family members there.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing website. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And what is the name of that again?
It's findagrave.com, and I believe there's dashes. Hold on, let me look it up real quick for you.
Okay.
Let's see here. Okay, yeah, it's www.findagrave.com. And you can set up an account. They don't spam you. They don't send you any emails. I've had this for 3 years, and I've never gotten anything from them. So, they don't annoy you with anything.
Oh, that is so cool. That's
and
so
also,
cool.
what you can do, what I've been doing is, whenever I come across a victim that they don't have a photo for, because I am writing a book, I do have the photos. And so I just put it on there and you can submit photos, you can submit the correct information, and they'll change it, and you can help, make it more accurate information, sort of like Wikipedia, but a little cooler to me. So.
Yeah. Someone just put the link up here for us. So
okay, yeah.
We only have one live. She put it here for us. Thank you, honey, for doing that. I was trying to type it in. The stupid phone wasn't pushing the right thing, so she was talking.
Yeah, and like I said, you can look for your own family members. You can drop them a flower, a comment. Anybody that you're looking for that's passed away, they're going to be on that website. And if they're not, you can add them, and it's very easy. If I can do it, I know you guys can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know shit about computers, so.
Well, I'm going to check that out, and I'll let you know what I think about it. Of course, I think it's cool. Of course. Someone was asking, let's see, something about reading what Stephen said again, but I mean, you don't have to if you don't want
The
to.
blog?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I'll be happy to. Hold on, let me grab
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a
let's see
good
here.
question, Laura. Is the site worldwide? I'm assuming it would be.
Yes, it says the world's largest gravesite collection.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you're welcome, Sandy.
Okay, so now this is just an example in his blog, um, talking about killing some religious demonstrators. But, he's talking about what he would do if he were caught killing people. Okay, he said, I'd go outside, grab my kit out of the car, pop in a fresh mag, and proceed to slaughter the entire bigoted group, never once doing so much as uttering a sound. When they are all dead, and they do need to all be dead, I'd sit down on the ground with my gun several paces away from me and just rock back and forth on the ground, eyes wide and blank. We know that's what he did other than the gun. He didn't have that in his hand, obviously, but that when she mentioned the body, he said, I got to sit down. He says, I think I need to sit down. And he sat down, remember, and he's rocking back and forth. Rocking back and forth. He goes on to write, afterwards, I'd remain in this state for at least a day or so. No talking, no communication, blank, unfocused stares. I do not fall asleep either. I need to look tired. Eventually, when some new stimulus is introduced, a family member I haven't seen, or a picture of my baby stepbrother, okay, so he said stepbrother there, or something like that, I'd shake my head from side to side, blink rapidly, and look around in a panicked manner, asking, where am I? What's going on? I don't know. Is everything okay? Is my family okay? Why am I here? I don't know. I'd say I had no memory of anything that happened after I arrived at the station. Near the end of the post, he writes, they probably initiate charges, at which point the family will need to go get a lawyer to argue that I had no knowledge of my actions and were not acting on my own volition when I acted. Keep the story consistent, and whenever I'm asked about what happened, I look down, put on a sad, blank, confused face, and say, I don't know. I have no memory of it. I might end up institutionalized for a while so they can try to figure out what caused the insanity or the blackout, and they may take my guns from me as well as the ability to purchase more. But if I stick to the story, it's doubtful I'll end up in prison.
Oh my goodness.
And then, of course, he says, of course, this is all hypothetical.
And this explains exactly his behavior in the interrogation.
That's why I say that he's not crazy. Now, do I think he got a little shock when he found out the body was there? Oh, yeah. He got a little shocked, like, oh, crap, I'm in trouble shock. But that whole ordeal where he's sitting in there, he planned that out. He thought that was the way to go, to act real stupid and confused and dumb. And he thought he'd get away with it.
Okay, I got one more question, and this is, what is the title of the book that Dr. Death's writing? And you don't have to answer if you don't want.
I don't mind answering it. It's not quite ready yet. It has been. I do have a publisher, and it will be in 3 volumes. The whole series of the volumes is called The Art of Murder. And in the volumes, the first volume, like I said, it will be on the death penalty. It's not going to really be my opinion of the death penalty, however. It's going to be the facts. It's going to be what this person did, and I'm going to go into some of the victims, what they went through, and the facts of his death penalty. I'll mention some of the appeals and mention when they killed him and things like that. So in other words, it's just going to be facts.
Right.
The second one is going to be on serial killers, men serial killers, women serial killers. We're going to be talking about their psychopathy. I'm talking about organized, disorganized killers, and really getting into the mind of a serial killer. But not only that, I will be in the second one getting into the mind of a victim. Because when you think about it, I can say a name, Jeffrey Dahmer, and every one of you guys know who Jeffrey Dahmer is. But if I named one of his victims, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that was a victim of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Exactly. And
Stephen Peterson.
I've watched
If
the
I say
documentaries.
right, if I say Stephen Peterson, everybody's going to be like, "Who's that?" But if I say Ted Bundy, everybody's like, "Oh, I know who that is." So my point is that I want to give a name and a face, excuse me, a face to a name, and let you understand from my job point of view what it's like to go through. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow night. You guys need to tune in because we're going to talk about what happens when you're strangled. Okay, what happens to your body? What happens to your mind? What happens when someone actively strangles you? And that's what I'll be doing in the book, talking about that. And then the third one will be about familicide, where people kill their families and what's going on in their mind when they kill their entire family.
Okay. I'll let you answer this question, Dr. Death. They're saying, what is Dr. Death's background? Is she a teacher?
I am not a teacher.
Okay. She works in the criminal justice field. Okay. And one of my moderators wants to know if his parents saw any signs of, him being abnormal, his behavior as a child or anything.
The only thing they mentioned was that he was a little socially awkward and quiet. But they said he was very kind and sweet and loving, and they were totally floored when this happened.
Okay. Okay. Well, I thank you for coming on tonight, and everybody needs to tune in tomorrow night because it is going to be good. She's going to be talking about the victim and about strangulation. So make sure y'all come and watch her. Thank you so much for coming on. You did such a great job. I mean, you
Oh, thank
really
you very
did.
much, and I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much. Text me, girl. Okay.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Thank y'all.